No, the question is difference between public administration and private administration. See, John Gauss, this is distinction between public and private administration. John Gauss, Ludwig von Mrs. Paul H. Appleby, Sir Josiah Stamp, Herbert A. Simon, Peter Drucker, etc. in their writings have made distinction between public and private administration. According to Simon, the distinction between public and private administration relates mainly to 3 points. Public administration is bureaucratic, whereas private administration is business-like. Public administration is political, whereas private administration is non-political. And public administration is characterized by red tape, whereas private administration is free from it. Felix in Ignou, he has pointed out that government is also different from private organization, as no private company can equal to it in the size and diversity of activities. According to Sir Josiah Stamp, the four principles which differentiate public from private advertisements administration are: principle of uniformity. Common and uniform laws and regulations mostly regulate public administration. Principal and external financial control. The representatives of the people through a legislative body control government revenues and heads of expenditure. Principle of ministerial responsibility. Public administration is accountable to its political masters and through them to the people. Principle of marginal return. The main objective of a business venture is profit, however small it may be. However, most of the objectives of the public administration can neither be measured in money terms nor checked by accountancy methods. According to Paul H. Appleby, public administration is different from private administration. He remarked, in broad terms, the governmental function and attitude have at least three complementary aspects that go to differentiate government from all other institutions and activities: breadth of scope, impact, and consideration, public accountability, political character. None governmental institution has the breadth of government. Appleby notes that the political character of public administration differentiated from private administration. Public administration is subject to a political direction and control. This is the primary distinction between the two. He further argues administration is politics since it must be responsive to the public interest. It is necessary to emphasize the fact that popular or political process, which are the essence of a democracy, can only work through governmental organization, and that all governmental organization are not merely administrative entities; they are and must be political organizations. Appleby reflects further on the distinction between public and private administration in the context of public accountability. Government administration differs from all other administrative work to a degree not even faintly realized outside, but virtue of its public nature. The way in which it is subject to public scrutiny and outcry, this interest often runs to details of administrative action that in private business would never be of concern other than inside the organization. According to Appleby, private administration cannot claim the breadth of scope, impact, and consideration of public administration. He observes the organized government impinges upon and is affected by the practically everything that exists or moves in our society. It involves policies and actions of immense complexity. Its fullest possible understanding requires the wisdom of many specialists as well as the key participants in public and private life. The more important distinguishing features of public administration may be described under the following subheads. Political direction. Public administration is political, while private administration is non-political. Public administration takes place in a political context. Absence of profit absence of profit motive. The absence of a profit motive from the public administration is another feature which distinguishes it from the private administration. The primary purpose of governmental organization is to provide services to the people and promote social good. Prestige. Public administration who serve in the government enjoy his high status and prestige in comparison to their counterparts in private especially enterprise, especially developing countries. Public gauge. All the actions of public administration exposed to wide public gauge because of the public closely watches it. This does not happen in private administration. Service and cost. Most governments spend more money than their income or revenues. That is the reason for finding generally a deficit budget, that is expenditure exceeding income. Conversely, private administration income often exceeds expenditure, without which they cannot survive. Legal framework. Public administration operates within a legal framework. It is rule oriented. The responsibilities of public administrators are fixed by a set of constitutional practices, laws, and regulations. Government officials are obliged to act within their legal powers and not outside the law. Constituencies of treatment. A government official is required by law to maintain a high degree of consistency in his dealings with the public. He has to observe the principle of equality of treatment in serving the people. It is a legal obligation to not to discriminate against any person. Public accountability. Public accountability is the hallmark of public administration in a democracy. Public administration is responsible to the public, though not directly but indirectly, through political executive, legislature, judiciary, etc. Large scale administration. Public administration is a large scale administration. It is said that almost anything under the sun is directly or indirectly under the domain of public administration. It is by all means larger than any big private concern in terms of size, complexity, and diversity of activities. Monopolistic in essential services. In the field of public administration, there is generally a monopoly of the government, and it does not generally allow private parties to compete with it. For example, no person or bodies of persons are allowed to establish or perform functions related to public services like national security, foreign relations, law and order, mint and currency, as these are the exclusive fields of the government and thoroughly important for the community and polity to prosper. Officials remain anonymous. In the public administration, even the most senior officials remain anonymous and their identity is not disclosed. This is so because whatever they do in this name of the government and not in their own name. Financial meticulousness. Public administration has to be very careful in financial matters because it is working as custodians of people's money. Lower level of efficiency is said to be the cornerstones of any organization. However, due to the varied responsibilities, lack of effective control, less accountability, involvement of a large number of levels in job security of employees, efficiency has not been there in public obligations to the effect desired. When compared to private administration, one finds that the degree of efficiency in public organization is at the lower level. With profit as the major motive coupled with excessive control and flexibility in personal administration, the level of efficiency in private organization is much higher. Similarities between public and private administration. Scholars like Henry Fayol, Mary P. Follett, and Al Urwick do not make a distinction between public and private administration. The classical writers held the view that public and private administrations are the undifferentiated members of the genus administration. Henry Fayol, for example, says that there is only one administrative science which can be applied equally well to public and private sectors. In his address in the Second International Congress of Administrative Science, Fayol remarked, the meaning which I have given to the word administration and which has been gradually adopted broadens considerably the field of administrative sciences. It embraces not only the public service but also enterprise of every size and description, of every form and every purpose. All undertakings requires planning, organization, command, coordination, and control. And in order to function properly, all must observe the same general principles. We are no longer confronted with the several administrative sciences, but with one which can be applied equally well to public and to private affairs. The following similarities between the two types of administration may be noted. Both public and business administration rely on common skills, techniques, and procedures. In modern times, the principle of profit motive is not peculiar to private administration because it is now acceptable as a laudable objective for public sector enterprises also. In personal management, the private organizations have been influenced greatly by the practice of public organizations. The private concerns are also subjected to many legal constraints. Government is exercising much control over business firms through regulatory legislation such as taxation, monitoring, and licensing policy, etc. Consequently, they are not as free as they once used to be. There is a similar type of hierarchy in management systems both in public and private sectors. Both have same kind of organization structure, superior or subordinate relationship, etc. Both public and private administration carries on continuous efforts to improve their internal working and also for efficient delivery of services to people or customers. Public and private administration serves the people, whether being called client or customers. Both have to maintain close contact with people to inform about their services and also to get feedback about services and product. In both the cases, public relations have helped them to inform and improve their services to the people. The preceding discussion shows that the distinction between public and private administration is not absolute. In fact, they are becoming more and more alike in many respects. However, it does not mean that there are no significant differences between these two types of administration. Waldo observed that the public administration is distinct because it reflects the peculiar characteristics of government activity and the public setting in which it functions. Given the wide acceptance of ideas of liberalization, privatization, and globalization, both public and private administrations have to compete in the same area to provide services to people. Here, both are dealing with customers who pay for their services. In such situation, it narrows down the differences between the public and private administration. New public management, which has come into prominence recently, puts emphasis on managerial techniques which are to be adopted by public administration for the efficient delivery of public services. But in providing public services in the field of social and welfare areas, there exists a difference between public and private administration. With this brief characterization, it could be stated that both public and private administration are placed in different environments, but this difference is more apparent than real according to Waldo. The generalization which distinguishes public administration from private administration by special care of equality of treatment, legal authority, authorization of and of responsibility of action, a public justification of decision, financial probity, and meticulousness, etc., are of very limited applicability. In fact, public and private administration are the two species of the same genus, but they have special values and techniques of their own, which give to each its distinctive character. Formal and informal organization. Before we proceed to discuss organizational theory, we will try to distinguish between formal and informal organization. Mohit Bhattacharya distinguishes formal organization from social organization or informal organization. According to him, formal organization is established for the explicit purpose of achieving certain goals and possesses rules designed to anticipate and shape behavior in the direction of these goals, and it has formal status structure with the clearly marked lines of communication and authority. He observes where social life is carried on without a framework of explicit goals or rules which define a formal status structure. It is usually thought more appropriate to use the term a social organization. In the words of H. A. Simon, D. W. Smithberg, and V. A. Thompson, formal organization is meant to pattern of a behavior and relationship that is deliberately and legitimately planned for the members of an organization. Here, as informal organization is meant to whole pattern of actual behavior the way members of the organization really do behave, insofar as this actual behavior does not coincide with the formal plan. According to Chester Bernard, formal organization is a system of consciously coordinated activities or forces of two or more persons, and such organization comes into the existence only when there are persons able to communicate each other, who are willing to contribute actions and to accomplish common purpose. This communication, willingness to serve, and common purposes are the three elements in a formal organization. Bernard observes that individuals in the organization continuously interact based on their personal relationship rather than organizational purpose. Such interaction may be due to the gregarious instinct or fulfillment of some personal desire. Because of the continuous nature of such interaction, and such relations become systematized and result in what are called informal organization. He describes an informal organization as the aggregate of personal contacts and interactions and the associated grouping of people. These organizations are indefinite, structureless, and are a shapeless mass of varied densities. The character of a formal organization, it has a clearly defined structure of activities which is predetermined by the top management. A formal organization is relatively stable. A formal organization grows and expands. The organization structure is based on division of labor and specialization. The structure is based on the jobs to be performed and not according to individuals who are to perform jobs. The organization does not take into consideration emotional aspects. It is deliberately impersonal. The authority and responsibility relationships created by the organization structure are to be honored by everyone. Organizational charts are usually drawn all the positions from general manager down to lower levels appears on the formal chart of organization. The characteristics of informal organization. An informal organization has its own characteristics. Generally, a society evolves its own unwritten laws, beliefs, and controls regarding what is desirable behavior and what is undesirable. This is what an informal organization also does. People think and act alike in groups, and this continuous cooperation gives rise to common values and common codes of behavior. It forces the numbers of a group to observe the common rules. It is very effective organization to impose penalties on or punish those who violate these rules. The leadership in it is also informal. There is a stratification also within an informal organization, which is based on several factors. Functions of informal organization. The informal organization performs the following functions: communication of unintelligible facts, opinions, suggestions, and suspicions which cannot easily pass through formal channels, minimize excessive clicks of political influence, self-discipline of the group, and makes possible the development of important personal affluence in the organization. Relation between formal and informal organizations consist of human beings, and they are human organizations. Informal organizations have a serious impact on members of the formal organizations, therefore bringing a continuous interaction between formal and informal organizations. According to Chester first Bernard, formal organizations create informal organizations as a means of communication and to protect the individuals from the domination of a formal organization. In turn, informal organization tended to formalize several elements, thereby establishing a formal organization within a informal organization. The relation between the two, according to Bernard's observation, is that they are interdependent aspects of the same phenomena. A society is a structure by a formal organization. Formal organization are vitalized and conditioned by informal organization. The bottom line is that there cannot be one without the other. If one organization fails, the other will necessarily disintegrate. LD White is of the opinion that the two, that is informal and formal organization, may nearly coincide or they may be far apart. Further, he says informal organization is more subtle, reflecting such matters as social and economic status outside the work relationship, race or language differences, education, and personal likes and dislikes. It has a powerful effect upon the formal organization, and in case of conflict may prove dominant. What we understand from the observation of the two scholars have above is that both formal and informal organization are important, as both are interdependent. Typologies of organization scholars based on size, ownership, legal status, and area of operations have classified organization. Another set of scholars has classified the organization based on function or purpose, primary, beneficiary, consumer, and authority. Now we will be discussing about the classification based on the latter set of scholars. Typologies by goal or function or purpose. Talcott Parson has classified organization into four types on the basis of their functions or goal served by the organization. The four types of organizations are production, economic organization. This type of organizations produce goods or make things which are consumed by the society. Political organization, this type of organizations are concerned with attainment of political goals. They generate and allocate power within the society and also maintain peace and stability in the society. Legislature and government departments are examples of such organizations. And integrative organizations, these organizations try to settle conflict, integrate and coordinate various segments of society to work together and provide stability in the society. Judgment courts, police, and social agencies are examples of this type of organization. Pattern maintenance organization, these organizations are concerned with the social continuity with the focus on long term issues such as of society's values, patterns, knowledge, culture, etc. through educational, cultural, religious institutions. Katch and Kahan have also classified organization into four types based on the functions or goals served by the organization. The four type of organization are the production and economic organization. These organizations are concerned with the manufacture of goods, provisions of essential services to the people, and also building up of infrastructure. Their focus is on creation of wealth. Managerial political organizations, these organizations are concerned with education, coordination, control, and resources, people, and subsystems. Adaptive organizations, these organizations provide opportunity for creation of knowledge, testing, development of theories, and also provide information solutions to the existing problems. Universities and research institutions are examples of these organizations. Maintenance organizations, these organizations give space and scope and devote to the socialization and of people for their role in other organizations and larger society. Schools, church, and health and welfare institutions are examples of this type of organization. Typologies on the basis of the consumer or primary beneficiary. Blau and Scott, they classified the organization based on the primary recipients of the output or who benefits. The main basis for this classification is who the direct consumer of the output of the organization is, or who the prime beneficiary is. Four types of organization are derived on this basis. Mutual benefit association. In this type of organization, the primary beneficiaries are the members themselves. To political parties, trade unions, professional associations, and religious bodies are examples of these organizations. Business organizations or business concerns. In this type of organization, the owners of properties are the prime beneficiaries of the organization. They are mostly concerned about the return or investment in the organization. Then, with the nature of the output of the organization, the main concern is that the operating efficiently to make the maximum profit at a minimum cost. In order to survive, so they have to compete with other organizations. Service organizations in this type of organization, the clients who are served are the prime beneficiaries, hospitals, educational institutions, social work agencies, legal aid societies, etc. Example of these organizations. The clients who are supposed to be primary beneficiaries not have a usually control over these organizations. Commonwealth organizations, in this type of organization, the public at a large is a primary beneficiary. Post office, police service, fire department, military service are examples of these types of organizations. They perform mostly protective services as or serve as a administrative arm. Typologies on the basis of compliance. At Joni, it differentiates an organization on the basis of compliance. Compliance involves one party telling or directing another party to do something. It refers to the manners in which the lower participation in an organization responds to the authority system of the organization. In this context, at Joni identifies the three types of power: coercive, utilitarian, and normative. Coercive power is based on the application or the threat of the physical sanction. Here, compliance is alienated. Utilitarian power is based on control over materials resources. Here, compliance takes a calculative or utilitarian approach. Normative power based on the allocation of symbolic rewards. Here, the compliance is moral. Almost all the organizations would follow the three types of authority, which combine three types of compliance. Typologies on the basis of authority. Max Weber identifies the three types of organization on the basis of exercise of authority. They are explained below. Charismatic authority. In this type of organization, there will be a leader and set of disciples or followers because of charisma or an exceptional quality of the followers accept his authority or repose their faith in the person. In this type of organization, the administrative apparatus is very loose and unstable. That is a built-in instability. Traditional authority. In this type of organization, the followers and employees accept the authority of a person who occupies the traditionally sanctioned position of authority. The administrative apparatus in this kind of domination would consist of personal servants, relatives, feudal lords. Legal or rational authority. In this type of organizational, people or followers accepts authority of a leader, which is based on the belief in the rightness of the law. It is legal because authority is exercised by means of a system of rules and procedures by rules of the office which an individual holds. The administrative apparatus corresponding to this kind of authority is bureaucracy. Based off organization Luther Gulick's four P's. Luther Gulick's identifies the four based off organizations which are popularly known as four P's: purpose, function, process, persons, clientele, and place. So organization based on purpose or function. In the first place, the organizations may be organized on the basis of purpose or function or service to be performed. The example are education, law and order, communication, and transport. Organization based on process, we can have an organization based on the process or skills or specialization in the other accounts department, public works, and the law are examples of this type of organization. Organization on the basis of persons. Organizations are are formed on the basis of the person served, of women and child welfare department, tribal welfare department, old persons and unemployed are examples of the type of organizations on the basis of a place or territory. Organizations are created on the basis of a place or territory or area to be served. The railway organizations spread across the nation to various zones based on territory is an example of this type of organization. Countries and districts are the best examples of the organizations based on territory. Next is एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव थ्योरी. एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव थ्योरी थोड़ा पढ़ लेते हैं. Administrative theory, evolution and growth. Traditionally, administrative theorizing has been the work of practitioners, reformers, particularly in the United States of America. In the part of the 20th century, American universities began to take active interest to bring reforms in government. In 1914, the American Political Science Association published a report which delineated the objectives of the teaching of political science. One of the objectives stated was to prepare specialists for governmental positions. Thus, public administration was recognized as an important sub area of the political science. The subject began to gain increasing recognition in the American university, and his study was steadily spreading. In other words, public administration as a discipline was born in United States, and that country continues to enrich it in even today. The single most important source of literature in the field of public administration is USA. The discipline had learned to reflect the American concerns, and in the process, they tend to become universalized. A systematic scientific study of a public organization can be traced to the 19th and early part of the 20th century. A powerful movement at the empirical plan was the scientific management movement by F.W. Taylor. The movement had a resounding impact on the governmental reforms in the United States. Thus, the early American administrative thought developed at the time when the Industrial Revolution was entering a state of maturity. Then, large-scale complex organizations were responding and adjusting to the demands of greater and better production in rapidly moving competitive world. Concepts like economy efficiency had become fairly prominent in the administrative theory because of their eminent relevant to the process of capacity building of an administrative system. Limited resources and growing demand of public services led to pressures for more efficient and economic operations in the government. Much of the discussions in administrative theory during this period focused on the internal administrative environment and of an organization. It became the prime thrust of the classical school of thought. Taylor and Fayol were almost the first to formulate certain postulates, which were later synthesized as principles that form the basis of and substance of classical approach to the study of organization. The aim of each principle is to raise the level of efficiency of the organization. But from the public administration point of view, several doubts arise pertaining to validity of these principles in political setting. The principles have situational relevance. Herbert Simon critical setting. The principles have situational relevance. Herbert Simon criticized these principles as proverbs. Despite such criticism, classical theory has its importance in the history of administrative thought. In the study of administration themes, Max Weber conceptualization of bureaucracy provides an influential conceptual framework in public administration. If Wilson is a pioneer of the discipline, Max Weber is its first theoretician who provided the discipline with a solid theoretical base. His ideal type of bureaucracy continues to remain fundamental in any conceptualization of organization. For Weber, bureaucracy was a control system based on a rational rules which regulated the organization's structure and the process according to the technical knowledge and at maximum efficiency at a time when Taylor and Fayol were pursuing an engineering approach to the analysis of administrative phenomena. Max Weber was engaged in the examination of the process of evolution of modern civilization, with bureaucracies constituting an integral part of the evolution process. Weber's bureaucracy model, which operated in the framework of an ideal typical legal rational authority system, was based on the accentuation of certain logical interrelated characteristics of an advanced administrative system. Even though Max Weber's bureaucratic theory developed independently of the early American administrative thought, it shared many of the premises of a management thought of industrialists such as Taylor and Fayol. Weber emphasized the importance of rationality in administration in order to facilitate the achievement of the implicit goals of efficiency in the solution of complex and specialized problems. The major form of public administration in modern society is the bureaucratic organizations. Contemporary bureaucratic analysis focus largely on the functional and dysfunctional aspects of bureaucratic administration. The cultural environment of bureaucracy, bureaucratic power, and the bureaucratization of administrative culture. Weber's bureaucratic model is the key conceptual construct in administrative analysis. It was one paradigm in public administration. The classical theorist from Taylor to Weber laid emphasis on the psychological and mechanistic aspects of public organization. The next historical stream of administrative thought is described as a neoclassical or human relations approach to the study of administrative process. The human relations research of the late 1920s and early 1930s paved the way for transformation of study of organizations that identified variables like informal organizations, leadership, morale, and motivation. Human groups and their dynamics had a noticeable impact on initiating a movement and humanizing administrative analysis. Human relations approach was considered pertinent and functional to facilitate maximum utilization of human resources in organizations after the Second World War. Gradually, the scope of the human relations approach has extended from the early studies of work norms and incentives to applied behavioral science from the Hawthorne experiments of the 1920s onwards. Chemical investigations into human behavior in organization setting opened up new vistas of administrative behavior studies that led to the substantial modifications of the concepts and methodologies of public administration. The works of Follett, Bernard, Simons resulted in a significant change in direction of administrative theory. During the late 1930s and 1940s, decisional analysis was introduced in administrative theory through the writing of the Chester Bernard, Edwin O. Steen, and Herbert Simon. The behavior school, which um, evolved first in Chicago University, entered the public administration domain through decision analysis, and the main credit for this goes to Herbert Simon. Attacking the traditional principles as scientific proverbs, Simon claims that it is the decision making that is the heart of administration. He further says that decision making process alone can reflect the actual behavior in an organizational setting. Stress on the behavior of an individual in organizational setting is the crux of Herbert Simon's analysis of administrative behavior. R.K. Arora stated that although the human relations research were the first behavioral research in the organizational analysis, these could not get the credit for long for being so, primarily because their appearance was too early to be noticed by the acknowledged behavioralists. Nevertheless, human relations approach was an authentic precursor to behavioralism in administrative studies. Multidisciplinary nature of a public administration strengthened the base of behavioral approach to the study of administrative system. This approach continued to be the center of many profound debate in the discipline of public administration. Since World War II, there has been a growing consciousness that the quality of administration is important to modern life and is it must improve. Analysis of various studies have indicated that the high percentage of administrative failure have been due to the administrative incompetence and inexperience. In its post-Second World War phase of growth, the discipline of public administration continued to be influenced by various disciplines of social sciences. As a result, there was a discernible stress on conceptualization in relations to various facets of administration behavior. The writing of Abraham Maslow, Douglas McGregor, Chris Algres, Rensis Likert, and Warren Bennis, among others, had a perceptible impact on the research and writings in public administration. Another notable transformation in the field of public administration after Second World War came through the emergence of a host of developing nations in the Asia and Africa. These phenomena led to the significant emphasis on the study of administrative system in cross-national and cross-cultural analysis. The emergence of comparative administration and the development administrative concepts as important facets of public administration focused on the centrality and complexity of achieving the externally induced progressive socio-economic goals by the administrative system. The ecological approach to the study of administrative originated in the wake of the emergence of the Third World and the increasing realization of the irrelevance of the most of the Western organizations. Theories to the study of administration, F.W. Riggs and the comparative administrative group of the American Society of Public Administration pioneered a new administrative vocabulary to describe different societal typologies, administrative cultures, and administrative systems. Among all the conceptual concepts thrown up by the comparative administrative movement, F.W. Riggs' prismatic Sala model has been the most prominent. In 1960s, United States of America was experienced a series of crises, but the established institutions of government and knowledge of traditional public administration were failed to provide answers to the crisis. The conventional or conservative public administration measures failed to resolve these crises and necessitated fresh insights and initiatives in public administration to tackle these problems. This recognition led to the initiation of a new movement in the public administration during the late 1960s and early 1970s, of a new movement in public administration during the late 1960s and early 1970s, and resulted new public administration. The credit for this movement goes to Dwight Waldo, who organized a conference of young public administration scholars and practitioners at the Minobrook Conference Center. The conference highlighted in an effective manner the lacunae of traditional public administration. New public administration stressed upon the social relevance of knowledge. George Fredrickson called the new public administration as the second generation behavioralist who held the bureaucracy out to be committed to progressive values and take active interest in the formation and implementation of the programs designed to actualize these values. New public administration movement has strengthened the policy science perspective and developed a public policy approach in the public administration. This movement pushed the discipline towards greater relevance and strengthened the client orientation in administration. This movement also supported democratic humanism in public organization and produced greater the awareness for internal democracy through real participation in public systems. The public policy approach has been a major breakthrough in the growth of public administration. The Weberian paradigm has dominated the public administration discipline since its inception. So despite a variety of criticism against it, a historical perspective would reveal that bureaucrats throughout the world have rarely responded effectively to environmental challenges on their own. They have logged behind the times. In recent times, there have been some noteworthy contributions to both the theory of bureaucracy and the debate over bureaucracy-democracy relationship. The collapse of Soviet Union appears from causing a retreat of masses to lead to the resurgence of the old and the new alternative theories. One among them is the postmodern and post-Weberian theory of public administration. The post of modern theory of public administration, the local in the moral principles of a democratic equalitarian policy, despite disputes the possibility of universal theory of public administration. Postmodern public administrationists reject the trilogy of Wilsonian's political administrative dichotomy, the scientific management paradigm of Taylor, and ideal type of bureaucracy of Weber. Another conceptual construct in public administration is the public choice theory. The approach has been able to explore the myths of neutral and rational bureaucracy. The bureaucrats have been regarded as an utility maximizer and budget maximizers, always exercising a rational choice while choosing among alternatives. Their rationality is determined by and limited to their knowledge of the situation. The explanation of public choice theory and its methodology, its ethical benchmark, and its recommendations, challenge and contradiction the basic premises of classical as well as neoclassical public administration. The other post-Weberian development of great significance in the impact of a critical theory on social sciences is in general and public administration in particular. Jürgen Habermas is a major component of the stiffing effect of techno administrative domination of the bureaucracy. Critical theory of public administration would plead for debureaucratization and democratization of administration through free flow of communication and exposure of inherent contradiction in hierarchical relationship. Discourse theory propagated by Charles J. Fix and Hugh T. Miller is the most radical of the most post-modernist public administration discourse theory, while rejecting policy administration dichotomy, subscribes to the view that both policy and administration may better is graspable as public energy field. This field encompasses a variety of actors engaged in the policy process, organization, institutions, voluntary agencies, and the fourth estate, and citizen groups. So the discourse theory of public administration is a significant addition as well as a contribution to public administration theorization in general and postmodern public administration. Particular all post-modern public administration theories give importance to people in the organizations than to formal structure of organizations. Management since has its penetrating effect on the intellectual development of public administration. The core public administration has always been in external political context as well as internal managerial dynamics. What is internal to the public administrative system is its process of management, and what is external to its political environment in which it functions. It is universally acknowledged that most maxims, principles, guidelines, and dictums of Efficiency and effectiveness have emanated from the writings of management thinkers. In other words, scholars and managements have offered remedies to bureaucratic ailments, and scholars of public administration have adopted them. The scholars of public administration 1980s highlighted the need for adopting in an effective manner sound management practices in government systems. New NPM, new public management, is one such a manifestation in public administration. New public management is a contemporary paradigm of public administration. This paradigm emerged on the heels of the movements of reinventing government and good governance. American scholar David Osborne and Ted Gabler popularized the concept of reinventing government in 1982. The World Bank develops the concept of good governance. The former was designed to be universalistic in its relevance and application, while the latter has been considered more appropriate to the countries of the third world having democratic form of government. The movement of reinventing government had a startling influence on the government system throughout the world. New public management and good governance philosophical concepts have reoriented public administration towards the multiple actors in governance beyond the traditional organs of formal government. In this scenario, public administration's new role is thus of a facilitator and stimulator. Now, administrative theory has to be vital part of the state theory. The changing complexion of administration has to be contemplated in the context of changing nature of a state. The above survey of administrative theory show that the field of public administration is being continually transformed. Traditional public administration assumptions are frequently shattered by a contemporary happening. The subject matters of the public administration is exploding in all directions. New types of public organizations are being created. New concepts, techniques, and process for improving the performance of public service delivery are being searched. The result is development of different paradigms in public administration. So this was the public administration theory. Okay. Now we will come to what? So that was all.